to debate the resolution. We are here to debate the resolution resolved. If you aren't cheating, you aren't trying. The round will begin with a constructive speech, not to exceed 7 minutes, to be delivered by the Prime Minister of the Government Barrington P team, Sandy Greenberg. Sir, you are recognized.
Thank you for your recognition, Mr. Speaker. The resolution presented to us today was, if you aren't cheating, you aren't trying. And when my partner and I heard this resolution, we thought that it describes how an unfair advantage in this country currently is the only way by which people ensure success. And we thought that if we could get rid of this unfair advantage, people would ensure success by the merits of themselves and by the merits of the particular case that they were trying to ensure success in. Which led us to our case topic: inheritances over $750,000 should revert to a charity of the heir's choice. We define inheritances as money received from the estate of a deceased relative or benefactor. Please note that this is money and not assets such as property. We define revert as be transferred. We define charity of the heir's choice as a registered charitable organization, meaning that it is in the title of the tax code for charitable organizations, chosen by the person who has inherited the money. And we thought about all the various groups, all the various people that would be benefited by this, and our first contention is the benefits to the heir. The heir who would know that they're not going to be receiving however much large amounts of money they might otherwise be receiving is going to be less entitled. They're going to feel less entitled about their life. So they are going to work harder, especially because if their parents or people who know them very well are very wealthy and have been very successful, they're going to know, hey, this person was successful by their hard work, I can too, but I'm going to have to work hard for it. I'm not going to have to just get the money. So they're going to work harder, they're going to try to achieve. And in the long run, not only is this good for their exploration of themselves as a person, but it is also the best way to ensure economic health in the long run. Because think about it, we're defining this as over $750,000. So if you inherit $1 million but no work ethic because of that, eventually you could very well take yourself to financial ruin. And that is certainly not what we want for these people, especially when they're given such an opportunity with this money, and they could be so successful and do so many things if they had this work ethic, which I think that this would instill. Secondly, you would not have to deal with family squabbling over wills, with trying to impress people for money. This is something that has happened since the dawn of time. Ask any Latin teacher. And it's just a hassle for the heir, and the heir would not have to deal with this. It would make them aware of other things besides for money, which again would make them more productive in society. And having to make this significant decision about which charity to donate to will make them research charities, will make them get involved, and perhaps make their lives ones with great impact in the world. Now, our second contention was that this strengthens the American dream. And the American dream is the thing we always learn in school, instilled upon us by preschool teachers, kindergarten teachers, people you meet on the street. It is a kind of fiction which permeates the very essence of this society. And it is the belief that if you work hard, you can achieve very great things. You can be set up for a life of incredible accomplishment. And the fact is, in our current society, this is a fiction. When we have large sums of money being controlled by families repetitively through generations, that is not the American dream. And people realize that is the way to become successful. Working hard is not the way to become successful because they don't have the money necessary to get an education and to necessarily achieve. So if we are showing people that achievement comes from merit, that if you work hard, you will succeed, that will strengthen the American dream. Still maintaining the freedom of the choice of this charity, which is at the heart of America as well. Still maintaining not a very radical change, as taxation and certain other things are common, and this is very similar to that. It is simply a form of taxation in which the taxes do not go to the government per se. While maintaining all of that, we could strengthen the American dream that is at the heart of Americana, that has been drilled into our heads, and that will lead to a happier society, a more productive society, which leads us to our third contention, which is the benefits that this would have to society. First of all, charities would obviously have an influx of a lot of new money, and they could use this money for all of the valuable things that they could do. They could help the poor, the sick, wounded veterans, animal abuse, all of these things that would stimulate our economy, give people hope in the bleak days of recession and post-recession, and could really help make America a better place in a myriad of ways. And by empowering these charities to do this, we are helping everyone in America with their education and with their lives. Furthermore, it reduces the potential, once again, of these very wealthy, plutocratic families to funnel this wealth down through the generations, kind of controlling it as a secret recipe, if you will, handed down from generation to generation. The modern day versions of the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers, robber barons who exert incredible influence over the government, who exert incredible influence over the media. And if we could eliminate the influence of them by making sure that that chain of money can't be continued wantonly, it has to be, if you work hard, you get that money, then we are, in a sense, eliminating the mass influence they have on Congress, on the president, on advocacy groups, the mass influence of throwing barrels of money at something until it conforms to your ideas. And that means that government will make laws that apply to everyone. That means that we will have a more democratic society, not a plutocratic society. And that the world will once again see America as the place where they want to emigrate to and establish a new life in a place of freedom where if you do work hard, you can achieve. And that is a promise which we would show the world we are ready to implement by this measure. So to crystallize our contentions, our first contention focused on the benefits to the heir. They would be less entitled, so they would work harder to achieve. They would be set up to take a prominent role, directing society they wouldn't have to deal with family squabbles. They would be forced to wear other things besides money and make this important decision, and perhaps ensure that they will be fiscally healthy in the long run, because $750,000 is not enough money for one's entire life necessarily, depending on where you live and whatnot. Our second contention was that this strengthens the American dream. The dream, the idea that if you work hard, you will achieve, you will do well in this promised land, which leads to America being revered around the world. It leads to a happier populace. And our third contention was that this would benefit society, both with charities who would be able to do all of this productive nation building, both with eliminating the influence of the plutocracy that some call the 1%, and the potential of the government to make laws not for the many, but for the few, which is not at the heart of the American ethos. So overall, I would urge you to consider these options and to vote for the team that, yes, our idea may be slightly out of the ordinary of American politics, but its spirit is at the heart of what has made America tick from the first days of our country.
The round will now continue with the first constructive speech in opposition to the resolution to be delivered by the leader of the opposition Cumberland T Team, Chase Boney. Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your recognition. Resolved, if you aren't cheating, then you aren't trying. And from this, the Honorable Government has derived the case topic of inheritances over $750,000 should be reverted to a charity of the heir's choice. We, as members of the opposition, would like to formally accept their link and definitions, and we would like to introduce the negative philosophy of you cannot legislate morality. And what we mean by that, Mr. Speaker, is that we believe the government is trying to force people to be moral. They are trying to coerce people into doing a moral act, that is donating to charity. And we do not believe that it is in the proper scope or role of government to legislate morality. government's first contention was that by donating this large inheritance to charity, it would be benefits to the heir himself. The heir would feel less entitled, would have to work hard, etc. But Mr. Speaker, the government mentioned the fact how the person, the ancestor, had to earn this money. The ancestor had to have a good work ethic. So if the person who inherits this money grows up surrounded by those who possess a good work ethic, they will also possess that good work ethic. It will pass on to them. They will inherit the work ethic as much as they will inherit the money. The members of the government also mentions that people would essentially feel that they were entitled to success, that they didn't have to work hard. But Mr. Speaker, money runs out, and eventually the heir would have to create some more money in order for him to live on. Because you have to assume he's getting large amounts of money. He's going to purchase some things. Eventually that money is going to go away. And he's going to have to find some means, be it through entrepreneurship, be it through getting a regular job, be it through whatever he may, to get another source of income to supplement once this large inheritance goes away. The government's second contention was that this would strengthen the American dream. They talked about how there's a massive inequality of opportunity in this country, how some people simply are born into an inheritance, they inherit a large sum of money, and this puts them at a disadvantage to those who did not have that inheritance when they were growing up. But Mr. Speaker, the American dream is not socialism. The American dream is not theft of people's money. Mr. Speaker, this money was earned at one point or another, be it not by the heir, but it had to be earned. Somebody's hard work, somebody's work ethic somewhere brought this money into existence. And that hard work that earns this money is the American dream, Mr. Speaker. That success is the American dream. All right, the government's third contention was that this would benefit society. They talked about the large sums of money that would be going to do good in charity, that would be helping people who were disadvantaged. But Mr. Speaker, as I have said, you cannot legislate morality. No matter how good a deed may be, making someone do it by force nullifies that good. No good has ever been achieved through coercion. No good has ever been achieved through force. Therefore, by forcing someone to donate their money, you are not helping society. You are hindering society. You are hindering the American dream that the government seems to think this supports. And I would also like to bring up the point that the government mentioned how there's a plutocracy in this country, how people with money have influence over the government and the media. But Mr. Speaker, it doesn't matter whether they inherited that money or whether they earned it themselves. The money is the source of the influence, not the manner in which they earned it. If I were to start a successful company which made an enormous amount of money, I could theoretically influence the government or influence the media. I do not have to inherit that money in order for me to be influential in the political sphere. So therefore, by eliminating inheritances, you are not eliminating the plutocracy, because all the living people who have large amounts of money, all these special interest groups who have large amounts of money, will still be influencing the government with the money they currently possess, whether they inherited it or not. So, Mr. Speaker, to sum up, I would like to say that we do not believe it is the proper role of the government to legislate morality. We do not believe in this Robin Hood philosophy of stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. And we do not believe that inheritances are contrary to the American dream, because at one point in time, someone's elbow grease, someone's intellectual pursuits, someone's dreams brought that money into existence. And with that, I close, and I would like to strongly urge you to vote for the opposition.
We will now hear our second speech in favor of the resolution to be delivered by the member of the Government Barrington P team, Tyler Hoskins. And you, sir, are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your recognition. The resolution provided today was if you aren't cheating, you aren't trying. And the case topic my partner and I derived from this resolution was that inheritances over $750,000 should revert to a charity of the heir's choice. Now, the opposition has come up with the negative philosophy of that the government cannot legislate morality. Now, going to our first contention, Mr. Speaker. Our first contention is that this policy would benefit the heir. They will feel less entitled to have that money, and they want to. This will set them up on a life of accomplishment, Mr. Speaker. They do not have to deal with family squabbling, like my partner said. It makes them aware of other things in life besides money. And this reminds me of Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob. Money, money, money. But you need to be about charity, and you need to be about the country as a whole. In the long run, this will provide economic success. To our first contention, the opposition said that the people that are getting this money, the heirs, they are surrounded by people with good work ethic. Okay, they may be surrounded by people with good work ethic, but not necessarily, because their parents could have also inherited that from their parents. So they may just be some sort of person that doesn't work and just sits on their money, and they may not even work either, so they could have inherited that. Now, the opposition also brought up the point that with this money, people still have to gain more money to be able to keep themselves and support themselves. But they don't have to get another source of income, Mr. Speaker. They can just invest. And investing, I mean, that just brings in pools of money. You don't need to keep, wasting this money and spending this money. These rich people don't need to be sitting on their money. They need to be giving it to charity. They need to be giving it to people who cannot buy those expensive things that they have. Now, to our second contention is that it strengthens the American dream. If you work hard, you can achieve a better quality of life. And we need to teach people in our society, in our country today, that if you work hard, you can become one of these people. Now, the opposition said that I don't want to become one of those people because I don't want to become a rich person because I don't want to give my money away. I don't want to give all of my money away. I don't want to keep, just $750,000 of it. I don't want to revert that to charity. But, Mr. Speaker, they need to understand that we're trying to show and we're trying to paint a picture to the rest of the country. We are trying to show people that if you work hard, this may be you one day. If you work hard, then you may have a lot of money, and you may be able to give that to charity. Our third contention is that it benefits society. Like I've been saying, Mr. Speaker, we need to paint a picture for the rest of the country. Charities will get more funds. It strengthens the country with regards to the poor, the sick, and the wounded, and it will make America a better place. People will look up to the country because they will see that we are giving money to the poor, the sick, and the hungry. And many people around the world think that we're too greedy. We sit on our money. We need to show the rest of the world that we can lead this country and that we can lead the world in philanthropism. Government create policies which will promote social justice for the rest of the world and for the rest of the country, which benefits everybody as a whole. So to clarify, our first contention is that it benefits the heir. They will feel less entitled to sit on their. They will feel less entitled to sit on their money. They will give to charity. They will feel like they have done something good for once. They will feel like they can have a good and happy life. They are giving to charity, and that is the goal of life: is to give to others who cannot afford. They do not have to deal with family squabbling, like my partner said. It makes them aware of other things in life besides money. And I leads to them getting involved in the world. And this is not just about America. This is about the world. This is about charity, Mr. Speaker. And the opposition fails to understand that. They feel as if we're stealing from the rich. But it's like Robin Hood, Mr. Speaker. We're stealing from the rich and giving to the poor, the people who cannot afford it. And that is what this case is about. So with that, I urge you to vote for the governor who believes in social justice. Thank you.
We'll hear our last constructive speech to be delivered against the resolution by the member of the opposition Cumberland T team, Sam Ackerman. Thank you, sir. Are recognized.
Thank you for your recognition, Mr. Speaker. The resolution brought forth to us today was, if you aren't cheating, you aren't trying, and from this, the government derived the case topic, inheritances over $750,000 should revert to a charity of the heirs to choice. And when we heard this case, we came up with the negative philosophy, you can't legislate morality. Now, this whole case seems to be about coercing morality onto our upper classes. But we believe that you do not have to use the government to be successful, and that those who are not part of this elitist class can rise up and become part of the middle or upper classes without the help of this redistribution. So their first contention today was that it benefits the heir. They say that if you give less inheritance to heirs, that they will work harder, they'll develop a work ethic. But what business is it of the government to force upon people a work ethic? We believe that the principle of America is if you follow the laws, if you abide by proper ethical standards, you can do what you please. This is the principle of freedom. I mean, if you are rich, you can be lazy. You can be a philanthropist. But the fact of the matter is that somebody down the line, some ancestor in a family attained money because they worked hard. And the benefits of that hard work and success carry on to the next generation. And this is because someone originally did work hard. Now, they say that that rich people can simply reinvest their money, and that even though some people need to have an income to continue aside from inheritance, that they can just reinvest. But I'll bring up the point here that you can lose your money from investing. So it's not like you're automatically going to continue getting more and more and more money just because you're investing. And investing is part of the American dream. Not everyone who is rich naturally invests, and not everyone who invests is rich. For example, my very father has been investing since he was young, and we by all means are not part of this plutocracy. So the fact of the matter is that it's not a guarantee of wealth by simply investing. And to continue, their second contention is that it strengthens the American dream. They say that if you work, the whole idea of working hard and achieving is a fiction to them. They think that money is controlled by a small group of families. This is untrue. My grandfather came to America. He did not need the assistance of government to help him rise up. He came here not knowing a lick of English. He spoke Yiddish. And he did not have a single dime in his pocket, yet he still was able to support a family of 5 and carry on that legacy to his grandchildren, such as me. So the fact of the matter is that there's no plutocracy here in America. If you are willing to work hard like my grandfather did, you can succeed. We take, for example, some of the wealthiest people to have ever lived. For Andrew Carnegie, when he immigrated from Scotland, he was one of the poorest people in his neighborhood. Yet he became one of the richest people of his time. He owned every single steel manufacturing plant in the late 1800s. And this was because he had worked hard for that. He came from nothing. We believe that this ideal of working hard still applies today, and that the American dream is still in effect. Their third contention was that there will be benefits to society, that charities would have more money, and that the benefits would be endless. But a charity is called a charity because people are willingly, out of their own benevolence, willing to donate to them. People don't donate because of coercion by the government. This fundamentally upends our principle of freedom, the ability to decide what you want to do with your money. And this is simply un-American. They say that there's a plutocracy here in America, that if anyone with money, or that anyone with money will carry down to their next generation that money, and these are the only people with power in society. But as I've said before, people can get, money is the source of the power, and anybody, no matter if you are in the lower class, middle class, or no matter if you work a white-collar job, maybe you want to start your own small business, you can get money and you can attain power. There are so many ways to attain power these days, especially with the proliferation of interest groups. There are so many different kinds of sources of power in our society today that they check and balance one another so that there's no one source of power that is driven in one plutocracy. So this whole idea is fundamentally wrong. Overall, this case that they have brought to us today is un-American. This is blatant class warfare and socialism. What they want to do here is take people's hard-earned money, even if it wasn't directly earned by that heir, it was earned by someone in that heir's family, and force that person to give it to another. And this is not abiding to the principles of our Constitution and our country of freedom and liberty. With that, I close, and I strongly urge you to vote for the resolution.
We will now hear the first of our two rebuttal speeches. The first to be delivered against the resolution from the Leader of the Opposition, Cumberland T-Team, Chase Boney.
Go Chase.
And sir, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you cannot legislate morality. By using coercion and by using force, you are contradicting the very nature of charity. Charity is meant to be a way in which people, by their own benevolence, by their own will, by their own desire, choose to give their hard-earned money to a group which appeals to them. Charity is not force, and force is not charity. Mr. Speaker, for an example of forced charity, I would like to bring you Soviet Russia. Soviet Russia was not a place that I would like to live in. In Soviet Russia, if you were rich, your money was taken from you and it was given to the poor. Yet the poor remained poor and the rich became poor. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, forced charity does not work. Now, Mr. Speaker, I would like to bring up one of the more lighthearted examples in this debate of Mr. Krabs, the beloved SpongeBob character. They say that Mr. Krabs is exactly what we're trying to avoid, a man who sits on his money, who is just obsessed with wealth and greed. But Mr. Speaker, Mr. Krabs is the American dream. Mr. Krabs... did not inherit his money. He started his own business. He was an entrepreneur, and he earned his money by his own sweat. And if that is not the American dream, Mr. Speaker, I don't know what is. Mr. Speaker, it is not right to legislate morality. The members of the government claim that we would be doing good to society. But may I pose the question, good? By what standard? By what standard is it acceptable to take the money that was earned by someone's family, someone's ancestors, to take it from them and to give it to someone else? Mr. Speaker, that is socialism, and that is not the American dream. Robin Hood is not the American dream. Taking someone's inheritance is not the American dream. With that, I would like to close. I would like to